Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is scheduled to meet with United States President Donald Trump at the White House on Tuesday. This meeting is expected to be one of the most contentious between the leaders of these neighboring countries in recent years. Canada stands as America's second-largest trading partner and a close ally on numerous fronts, from national security to commerce. However, Trump's recent aggressive tariff policies have strained this long-standing relationship, inadvertently aiding Carney in consolidating political power. In a surprising turn of events, Canada's Liberal Party, led by Carney, secured a victory in the federal elections last week. This outcome sets the newly elected government on a potential collision course with the Trump administration. In his post-election speech, Carney expressed that while Canadians have moved past the initial shock of America's actions, they must remember the lessons learned. The two nations have enjoyed a free trade relationship for decades, but Trump's sweeping tariffs have disrupted this symbiotic connection. The trade war has inflicted significant damage on both economies. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick mentioned on Monday that reaching a deal with Canada is possible, but would be highly complex. Until February, the United States and Canada were bound by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, a deal brokered by Trump during his first term. Ratified in 2020, the USMCA replaced the North American Free Trade Agreement, which had been in place for over 25 years. However, Trump altered this agreement earlier this year. In early March, a blanket 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada was briefly enacted before being suspended after leaders from both countries promised to take more action to curb the flow of fentanyl and illegal immigration into America. Nevertheless, a 25% tariff remains in effect for non-compliant goods imported from Mexico and Canada under the USMCA. Trump has also announced 25% tariffs on all cars, steel, and aluminum in recent months, along with tariffs on auto parts. In response to Trump's actions, Canada imposed a 25% tariff on 30 billion Canadian dollars, approximately $22 billion worth of US imports. Additionally, Canada levied a 25% duty on 29.8 billion Canadian dollars, about $22 billion in response to Trump's metal tariffs. Canada has also placed tariffs on cars imported from the United States. This trade war has significant repercussions for both economies. According to government data, Canada accounts for 14% of all trade. It is also the top destination for US exports, totaling $349.4 billion in 2024. With energy and cars being the primary exports. Meanwhile, the United States remains Canada's top export destination, accounting for more than 3/4 of its exports, which include softwood lumber, steel, and aluminum. About 30% of the softwood lumber consumed in the United States is imported, with Canada providing over 80% of those imports. Trump's trade war has already impacted American businesses of all sizes. General Motors CEO Mary Barra noted in an interview last week that tariffs would cost her company between $4 billion and $5 billion this year. On a smaller scale, Beth Finbo-Benite, owner of baby products company Busy Baby, reported that replenishing her inventory will now cost nearly $230,000 to arrive on U.S. soil. The Federal Reserve's latest Beige Book report highlighted various accounts of American businesses noticing fewer Canadian tourists, negatively affecting their bottom line. Retailers and hospitality providers in northern Washington and southern California reported a material drop in cross-border tourism with Canada and Mexico. Canadians are also choosing not to purchase American-made products. They are opting for Italian tomatoes over Californian ones, Ontario and Quebec produced meats instead of Ohio-made pepperoni, and sparkling water sweetened with Canadian maple syrup instead of Coca-Cola. Dylan Lobo, a Toronto resident who runs an online directory called Made in Canada, described the situation as an attack on Canada,